because I think it's self work that needs to be done. When you begin to no longer see yourself as a victim and a conqueror and begin to see things from a different perspective other than your own. Going to church one day and praying about, okay, what is my purpose? I'm big on purpose. Every day I wake up with purpose. Many times people are walking through life not knowing their purpose. And to me, if you're walking through life without knowing your purpose, you're walking through life without a roadmap. You're just going places and don't even know where you're going, which means you don't even know where you're going to end up. So is it wrong to really know your capabilities? Many times we want to be modest, but it's not a bad thing to know your strengths.
So when I started going to these networking events, my first thought was like, okay, I'm gonna try to get the whole room contact information. That's my whole goal. I'm gonna try to get the whole room contact information. But what I've
That's
learned,
bad networking.
that is bad.
Horrible.
What's going on, my brothers and sisters around the world? It's your boy Terrell with the Y, Humphrey, and we have another special episode today. Today we have Dr. Saniyyah Mayo. Listen. If you're struggling with relationships, if you're struggling with learning yourself and loving yourself, this conversation is going to be needed because it's going to help you be confident in everything that you're doing. Dr. Saniyyah Mayo, I'm sorry. How are you doing?
Saniyyah.
I said it wrong, Saniyyah. I'm sorry.
Saniyyah.
Saniyyah. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty well. I cannot complain. How's your day going?
Great, blessed, as always.
I agree. Great and blessed. Oh my. So before we dive in, how are you doing mentally?
Mentally, I'm at peace. I believe, a mental state is, it's the concept of seeing the glass halfway full and halfway empty. My motto is life is simple. We just make it complicated. So it's always based on perception. So my day is going great because I'm always going to see the glass halfway full instead of halfway empty.
Seeing the glass in that manner is difficult for a lot of people. It
Mhm.
takes time and effort and really trial and error to say, okay, I'm here, but I'm okay where I'm at. How long did it take you to get to this phase of peace?
I think maybe my early to mid 30s. And the reason why it took me that long is because I think it's self work that needs to be done. When you begin to no longer see yourself as a victim and a conqueror and begin to see things from a different perspective other than your own. For example, you can have two people in a situation, right? I can say I can have myself in a situation with someone else and I can be offended. Many times we take on only our perception. And so that's when the anger, bitterness, and frustration comes. I think when you become healthy and have a healthy mindset, you begin to see things from other people's perspective, which gives you another vantage point. And then you begin to think with a healthy mindset and understand that sometimes it's not just about you. Maybe somebody's going through something. So you set yourself aside to see the picture in its totality to get a better understanding of what's happening. And I think that's when you become healthy, and that's when you can become in a place of having peace. Because if someone cuts you off or someone goes off on you or customer service is not great, you then begin to understand it's not really about you.
What you when you said that, I was really reminiscing on everything that I've been through because it takes time and understanding to say it's not my fault. What if they're going through? What is this next person dealing with? A lot of times we listen to judge rather than listen to understand.
Correct.
What's happening is that when we start to really know more about ourselves, the judgment goes out the window. When it go out the window, now it's a bigger picture. Okay, what are you dealing with? Can I really help? And the book that you gave me, Love Goes. Let me get it right. Love Goes. It is a phenomenal book because it gives you a process on how to vet the person that you're speaking with. When I read it, it really opened my eyes to how I really articulate and communicate with this other person. This book that you wrote, it was phenomenal. And you said that you wrote it in how long did it take you to
That
write this
book,
book?
honestly, that book only took me a few hours because the book actually was it was I was motivated to write it based on the trip that I went to with my family in Cabo over spring break a few years ago. And I overheard these couples conversation is what prompted me to want to write this book.
Was that recent or
That was back in, I want to say maybe 2018. 2018, 2019.
Okay. So so the first question I asked, you said it took you up to your 30s to figure this out. When you
Mm-hmm.
was around this couple, you was hearing that conversation, they dialect, it sparked the interest because you put the
Mm-hmm.
time and effort into yourself. For someone that's struggling with self-discovery, what type of advice would you get can you give them?
They're struggling with self-discovery. The advice that I would give anyone that's struggling with self discovery would be spending time with yourself. Many times you'll hear people say, I'm bored, or they have to have the desire or the need to want to be around other people to feel gratification. But if you don't get gratification just by spending time with yourself, that's a red flag and a key area of concern, because the one person you should feel most comfortable with is being alone with you. And so self discovery is based on dating yourself. How do you even know what you want from a partner when you haven't even done these things and discovered for yourself first? And so that's the first thing I would say is date yourself and get to know you better by spending time with yourself.
That is scary because not only are we dating ourselves, we really have to pay attention to our flaws and everything that makes us as a person. What you just said, I always say this: you have to learn how to date yourself and properly learn who you are as a human being. Because if
Mhm.
you don't, you can't bring value to this next person. What's happening is that when we get around people that we think understand us, we want them to solve everything that we're dealing with. We have even put the time and effort to figure out what's wrong with us.
Correct.
And the important thing about self-discovery is that it's going to take time. But the time that you put into yourself is determines how much you're able to grow.
Like you, I struggled with finding myself. I didn't have a purpose, I didn't have a dream, and I was just lost. I was depressed. Not only was I depressed, I had to find out how to heal. So here's the thing, I created 10 tips to shift your mindset, because if your mindset is not right, things will be overwhelmed. My new book is out and it's called Master Your Mind. 10 tips to shift your mindset. If you want a new copy to learn more about yourself, to learn from somebody that went through what you're currently dealing with, click this link down below. Click this link down below, because the story is so impactful, because it's gonna demonstrate to you that you're not the only one. You're not the only one that was depressed. You're not the only one that was heartbroken. You're not the only one that felt lonely. When you learn from other people, you're able to grow, because you're able to see and put yourself in their position. Again, I created a book, Master Your Mind, 10 tips to shift your mindset. In order to get the book, you have to click the link that's going to be in the description. Click it, get it, read it. And please let me know. Please leave a review on how this book made you feel inside, and how you're going to use the tips to implement in your everyday life. I'll see you there.
But this is the thing too. You say it's going to take time, right? But
Mhm.
we'll take time in dating, we'll take time in school, we'll take time in learning the new system on the job. But the one thing we fail to take time with is ourselves, which is an issue. So yeah, it's going to take time, but we'll invest time in all these other things, but we lack investing time in ourselves. Yeah, because it's going to take time, but you're with yourself all the time. So how much time is it really going to take?
I believe we as people want instant gratification. So
Mm.
as soon as we start something that's not working, we try to figure something out and put it together. Like, no, it does not work like that.
Right.
How much time does it take? That's
I
that's a
don't
that,
think it's the time
oh.
frame. I think it's you. It's kind of like therapy. People say, "How long am I going to be in therapy?" And my response is always, "It's based on you." So with anything, it's like, how long is it going to take to ride a bike? How long is it going to take to drive? Learn how to drive. How long is it going to take to get adjusted to this new job? It's all simply based on you and how much work you're put willing to put in. So the time frame is up to you. How long is it going to take you to get it is the real question.
And it's not gonna happen overnight.
No, it's not going to happen overnight.
It is not gonna happen overnight, because what's happening is that the delayed gratification comes from the amount of work we put into ourselves. And what's happening is that we're able to figure out everything that we didn't understand or even comprehend at the time that it happened, but the lessons help us walk into our purpose.
Correct.
What made you become a therapist?
Oh, that was God. I don't know how spiritual you are, but that was complete. I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
And then I was like, okay, I wanted to go to law school, but then I wanted, it was either out of being a lawyer or a probation officer working with at-risk youth. So I interned at the probation department, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a paper pusher because you do more paperwork and reports than you do spending time with the youth. And for me, I wanted to be effective. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to be in the moment with them. And so then I contemplated law school, but the way my family dynamics was set up at the time with my husband working, and we had to kind of swap off in between times so someone can be there with the kids, it just didn't work. And then going to church one day and praying about, okay, what is my purpose? I'm big on purpose. Every day I wake up with purpose. Many times people are walking through life not knowing their purpose. And to me, if you're walking through life without knowing your purpose, you're walking through life without a roadmap. You're just going places and don't even know where you're going, which means you don't even know where you're going to end up. So I was praying to God and asking him about my purpose and what I was created to do. And that's when he spoke to me that night. And then the next day he had someone confirm it at the church by telling me specifically to go to school to be a therapist. And that was already what he had spoken to me the night before. And I had just enrolled in school the night before to do what the person told me that God was telling them for me to do. I never even thought of being a therapist, even though I always was a therapist. I just wasn't getting paid for it.
You know, that mind shift that happens is that when you work on something and you working on it without realizing the work that's being done, the answer and the result get presented to you by other people. I'm very spiritual, very faithful man. I've learned there's never a coincidence. When we hear something last week or hear something that a previous conversation that we had, the new conversations that we encounter are the ones that's hearing what we can walk into.
Right.
They asked me, like, have I thought about being a therapist? I was like, no. Didn't even come up with no.
But this is purpose, right? Purpose is passion. And typically your purpose already aligns with what you do. Many times we have the passion and we don't recognize it's a passion because we're looking at ourselves and we minimize ourselves a lot. Like people used to always tell me I was a great speaker. I hated my voice. I hated to speak, right? But it was something that I was already doing without even recognizing that I was doing because it's a passion. And your passion always aligns with your purpose. You're called from your mother's womb before you even know what you're destined to be. And so you're already operating in your gifts. Like the Bible says, gifts are without repentance, which means you operate in your gifts before you even accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, before you even accept or even know who God is, because God has already put those talents in you. And so when you understand that your gifts align with your purpose and you understand what your purpose is, you'll be unstoppable. And that's for anybody in this world.
But you have to believe and just do the work every day. Your answers your answer won't be presented unless you be determined in yourself. When I started back in 2020, I had to learn how to communicate, how to articulate what I wanted to, what I was thinking, how to present it to other people. It's hard to leave your southern twang back in Arkansas and then have a proper communication with your audience. That was in 2020. But as I'm continuing along the journey, I'm learning there's different ways to communicate with different people in different audiences, in different time, in different phases of life. But if I didn't, like you say, if I didn't understand my purpose, I wouldn't be still doing it today.
I think many times, you have to learn to speak according to the audience you're speaking to. And sometimes people will say, like, oh, you spoke different here. But it's like, you're not going to enter a room of like 5-year-olds and explain the same thing in the same way that you explain it to a 35-year-old. And so I'm big on speaking according to your audiences. But I think even with that, like I speak slang, I speak proper grammar, I speak business, I speak whatever. I can go into any setting and speak the language. But that's because my upbringing. And that goes back to God already knowing the positions and the environments he's going to put you in to reach certain people, to give you the skill set to be able to talk to these different audiences.
That is hard to do. That is hard to do. When I started back doing real estate, I didn't know how to solve the homeowner problem. It was so difficult for me to even hear what they were going through in order to start growing and help them solve the problem. But what I've learned is that when you understand this person that you're communicating with, you can present the solution at the timely manner. Communication is so hard because we don't understand how to adapt to our audience. I'm still learning that today, but it's mind-boggling how profound that is.
I think if you understand the person at the heart of the core, because ultimately we're all humans and we operate on the same basis, right? In terms of, Maslow's hierarchy, self actualization, self esteem, our needs. And so when you tap into a person, you tap into communication, because understanding the person will allow you to understand how to properly communicate with that individual.
So which wow, that was wow, that is incredible. How long have you been speaking?
Speaking publicly, what's so funny? When I was a kid, I hated my voice. And I think the enemy wanted to abort the vision of me being a speaking from the time I was in elementary, because I hated my voice. We had to do this project in the sixth grade. I'll never forget it. And then we had to watch um, our play on in front of the class. And I just shrunk in my seat because I was like, ugh. And I always hated my voice. And it wasn't until I was in college that I was in a communication class. And we were in a group and we had to present a project, and they were all asking me to speak. And I was like thinking they wanted to get out of the project. Most people, when you're in a group project, they try to do least work or less work. And they were like, you're the great, the best speaker in the group. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. But when I spoke, I impressed myself. And then one of the things that when I was in church, the leaders, they were like, they wanted me to do the morning announcements. One thing about me, I like to be in the back. I like to be, in the back and watch everyone else. And that kind of builds slowly my speaking, because I would be nervous. Even when I speak to this day, I still get nervous. Most people are like, I can't tell, but I am. Um, and then after that, all the leaders in the church had to do a Bible study, and I killed it. And that's when I was like, you know what? I really am good at this thing. But I was good at it. That's the thing. I had already had the gift, but I minimized it because I couldn't see the gift within myself.
And we do that a lot.
We do that a lot.
We don't believe the work that we're doing is actually the work. Because my brother reading, he was like, man, thank you for doing what you're doing, for paving the way, speaking at these schools, like really being consistent with the process. I was
That's
like,
good.
bro, I'm trying to. He was like, man, you're not trying, bro. He was like
You're doing it.
unlike anybody else, when you think of something, you actually do it. I was like, that make a lot of sense. We self-sabotage everything that we're doing because we don't understand how far we came. We don't realize it, we don't accept it. But the day that we do, we realize it is so much work that we've done, so much preparation, so much growth for today, and it's still growing. When he said that, it really opened my eyes. I was like, oh, you're absolutely right. I was like, that was the me being modest to even say, I'm trying to, not even trying to brag or nothing like that, but as you're working hard on yourself, people see the work that you're putting in, that's not in the light, because what goes on behind the scenes, people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And when people don't see that, they always look at today's work rather than last year's work.
Correct.
That, oh my goodness, that's really profound. You had the talent, your whole life, but as you're growing up and being more confident within yourself, you're able to create something special to help more people.
Correct. Because
How?
we always have the, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll go after you get on. You was about to explain. I feel like you was gonna hit it. You was gonna hit it.
So no, I was gonna say we always have the talent, but the problem comes when we don't know how to tap into that talent. We're already tapped into the talent, but this is what we do, right?
Mhm.
Let's say I'm a speaker and I see all these other speakers, and then I start comparing myself to those speakers. Well, they speak like this, and then they do. So now I'm minimizing myself without even realizing it. And so now, even though I'm this great speaker, I make my speaking skills this small because I'm comparing it to someone else, not understanding that God has tailor-made each of our gifts to speak to a certain people. I can reach people you may not ever reach. You can reach people that I will never reach, because we are designed to reach a certain mass of people, right? And so I think many times, just like you said, with self-sabotaging ourselves, we haven't conquered that. And that's what the whole, when you ask me, how does a person, basically, you said something about getting to know themselves or spending time with themselves or something to that effect. But that's a part of spending time with yourself, to know this is a skill set. Was
I've
being
learned.
myself.
Oh, you got to jump it. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
I said, is it wrong to really know your capabilities? Many times we want to be modest, but it's not a bad thing to know your strengths.
I learned speaking was a skill set, I believe, last month.
Okay.
The way that they used the example was the parable of the talents. I heard that story multiple times, but as they told it in a different way. It was like you have two arms, but if you only using one arm, the other one becomes dead. I think Jim Rohn said that. Jim Rohn said something along the lines of that. He was like, if you're not using something, it becomes wasted. But if you're constantly working on your craft, it's constantly getting built, and you're always perfecting your craft. I'm like, didn't even think about it. When he said it like that, it made so much sense because we put so much effort in things that we want, we forget about the things that we need. Which means if you're not putting time and effort in something that you're really bad at, you're not gonna wake up and be good. You are not. Like for instance, I suck at writing. I need to get up every day and start writing, but I don't. So my writing skills is not gonna be as good as my speaking skills because I practice my speaking more than I do my writing. But I know my weakness. I know how to identify that, and that is okay.
But that's the difference between a gift and a talent that you're trying to learn, right? Or a skill set you're trying to learn. Like when you said you have to work on your writing, you have to work on your writing because it's not a gift that God is giving you. It's a talent that you basically can groom and flourish, right? And grow in. But when you talk about the gifts, you do it without thinking. Like I was a therapist before I was a therapist. People would come to me for advice. I would just be talking to people in random conversation and like, you inspired me, you're motivating. I didn't do anything. I'm just being myself. Because the gifting from God, you don't have to try, you don't have to practice. It's you.
So how do you practice gifts? Not gifts, I'm sorry, talents that you can put on top of your gifts.
For example, so being a business owner, that was something I had to learn, right? I didn't know how to be a business owner. It was a talent that I had to constantly keep going to the drawing board and figuring out and figuring out and figuring out. And that's when I had to practice my skill set. That's when I didn't know how to pitch. I'm not a salesperson. I'm a great speaker, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm the type of person either you want this product or you don't. And I had to learn that people do business with people they like, not necessarily the smartest person in the room. So I had to learn how to go into meetings and pitch. That wasn't a skill set that I had, but I have a cousin that he was born a salesperson. He could sell anything because that's a gift that he has. He doesn't have to try, right? And I think that's the difference between having a gift already and trying to learn a new skill set.
What's today? Friday, I believe Wednesday. I was just thinking because to go from speaking, okay, to speaking to having a business, to having a biggest business to be more organized with everything that you're doing, is really overwhelming. A lot of people don't tell you sales comes from your presentation, but your presentation is how you deliver. So as I'm thinking, I'm like, I really have to become a salesman in order to solve this person's problem.
But you have to read the room, because you also have to read the person, because every pitch is not going to work for everyone. And that's why I say when you tap into a person and understand the person as an individual, that's when you're able to effectively communicate with them. Let's say business, right? You can go in and pitch a business idea to a company, but it's not unless you connect specifically with the decision maker is what is really going to drive them in to be engaged and be like, okay, I'm really in tune to what this person is saying. Part is business, but part is personal. They'll say separate business from personal, but that's not true. If I walk into a room and I start speaking your language about the things that you enjoy, that you like, you're instantly going to be gravitated to me or be engaged into what I'm saying because you already like what I'm talking about.
It's kind of like knowing the code words to use in your presentation for your audience. Is that correct?
Yeah, or knowing the audience, yeah, who you're speaking to. If I go to speak to, I started noticing when I would interview people for the job, they would come in and they would start quoting stuff off my Instagram. And I'm like, and half of the time I wouldn't even know what they were talking about. And then one time a person came in, they were like, yeah, your story is phenomenal. I'm like, my story. But they were learning me before they came into the interview because they wanted to, for one, know they did their research, and two, they were connecting with things about me. When you connect with a person with things about them and they love, you're already going to have an open dialogue, because many times you go into a meeting, it's like, okay, what you going to pitch? Hands across, they don't really care what you, but then when I get you and I engage you with things that you enjoy, what you love, was dear and near to your heart, already got you. But that's how you have to learn to read the person.
I agree. Your story, I'm glad you just said something about the quotes as well. I was going to actually bring this quote up with the, make sure you can see a transition of a butterfly. Phenomenal book. I'm still reading it right now. It was a quote that you said that was so profound and it really hit home. I need to learn to love me, and you are right. It's crazy how when you really start loving yourself, everything that you're doing comes tenfold because you put yourself first. Your ability to communicate with yourself. How did that tie in with your relationship?
You know, it's crazy. I always communicated with myself. I've always been a dreamer. I've always been a thinker. I'm very analytical. When I say I'm very analytical. And so to be alone with my thoughts, that's like I'm in heaven, like with just me. So from the time I was a kid, I've always been comfortable with being alone with me, you know, without even consciously thinking I'm being alone with me. But that was something I was always big on, my thoughts, and then putting my thoughts on paper. I was a writer since elementary. I would always write poems. Fifth grade, our teacher had us do a haiku. That was the first time I was introduced to poetry. I never stopped writing poems since. Writing has been my first love. I always knew like I wanted to write scripts. So it was always something that was there. That's gifting, something I didn't have to figure out because it was already in me. The teacher just basically promoted it, encouraged it, and I ran with it.
When you what's that saying? Proximity is power, because it gives you ideas that that you really can do something that you don't see. And as I'm reading the book, I can tell you had some type of poetry in it because the way you was just flowing it, like the entire book. I haven't finished reading it, but the parts that I did read is so phenomenal because it flows with each chapter, each page, and because you're speaking from experience. This book is showing you how to become yourself. You have a what is it called? A foundation, right? You have a foundation. Girls Gossip Women Network. As I'm hearing it and understanding it, it's so what is it? It's so misused that a lot of people don't know themselves, and when they get in the room, we bring a different energy because we're not communicating how we're supposed to communicate. When you network, you're not only just networking to meet people, you're meeting people that's like you. How did that come about?
Girls gossiping. Actually, my husband came up with the slogan. I wanted to do something that was empowering. And around this time, this was like probably 2015, 2016, when the whole women empowerment movement was going on. And I wanted to do something to empower women and young girls. And he came up with the slogan, Girls Gossip and Women Network. And then I came up with the slogan, it's not age, it's mindset. Because the term girl and women, it could be used the same, because a 50-year-old woman can have a little girl's mindset. So it's not really about age, it's mindset. And the whole girls gossip and saying like a little girl, somebody with a little girl's mentality, they gossip. Women network, they empower. They want to be among women that are like-minded to exchange. Because really, when you're a true, people have network misconstrued in today's time. It's like, oh, I'll give you my business card. And basically we talk and you give me something, right? But true network is a swap of ideas. It's an exchange, right? We're giving and we're also receiving. And so when you're a woman, you also know how to give, but you also know how to receive. It's a community. And so that's really what Girls Gossip and Women Network is about. It's not about age, it's mindset, shifting a person's mindset to think positive versus negative. Because gossip, what is gossip? It's associated to negativity. People gossip when they're negative, when they don't feel good about themselves, when they don't love themselves, because in order to stay focused on someone else, you can't be happy. And the reason why I said is people trip me out. They always tell me stuff from this happened on the Shade Room. I said, I don't follow the Shade Room. They were like, why? I said, because to me, celebrity gossip is talking about, it's no different than talking about your neighbors. But that's different than the limelight. But people always have this concept, it's different until it's you. The same way you wouldn't want someone discussing your business is the same way you should feel about it when you're discussing a celebrity. And so that's my mindset, is if you're constantly gossiping, you can't be happy, because the person is happy, they're creating ideas, they're leveling up, they're making business move. They're creating healthy relationships within their family. They're not worried about other people, and other people gossiping is the focus of talking about other people. So that's where that came from.
That is, oh my goodness. So when I started going to these networking events, my first thought was like, okay, I'm gonna try to get the whole room contact information. That's my whole goal. I'm gonna try to get the whole room contact information. But what I've learned,
that's bad networking.
That is bad.
Horrible.
I've learned that maybe my 10th networking event that I went to. But when I went, I'm like, why am I trying to get so many people numbers when I'm not going to reach out to them? I'm like, no. Let me take a step back. Instead of me meeting 100 people, I need to meet 2 or 3 people that I can really build a connection with. As I'm building a connection with, exactly. How can we get ideas off of each other? It went from bad networking to like, okay, I don't need to meet everybody. I just need to meet a couple people that can really help us grow. Whatever value you bring, I bring as well. You bring value, I bring value as well. How can we bring it together?
Correct. Relationships are currency.
Ooh, relationship currency. That is the most important thing to have, because if you try to do everything by yourself, you would never be successful, because we don't know everything. The next person might know more than what we know. Right. It's okay. We need to get connected with the right person just by being in the room. The last networking event I went to in the beginning of this month, there was a guy there. He had everybody put their contact information in, and now they're in his system. Okay, cool. I get it. Do you think? I was like, man, to be honest, I'm not trying to meet. I'm going to meet everybody, but I'm not going to meet everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I need to connect with a certain amount of people so we can actually grow. How long did it take you to understand what networking really was for yourself?
So I would go to these events, just like you said, many years ago, and I would see that it was a room full of opportunists, right? Because people don't understand. That's why I say people have the term networking misconstrued, because it's really opportunists. They're trying to see what they can get from you versus what can I give you so that I can in return receive something as well, where it's a mutual exchange. And so I would give out my contact, and then I would just realize at the end of the day, it was a waste of my time. And so instead of trying to meet all these people, like you said, I would try to focus on the people where we had commonalities. For one, if they were serious about what they were talking about, and two, where we could really grow or build something together. And even if it's not together, you could give me information that I may need, and I may have the key to the door you need to get through. And one of the things Oprah says, she says she does, I don't know if it was Oprah or someone else, but somebody said this, that they don't know everything, but they hired the person that knows what they don't know. And so to me, networking is a person that's another piece of the puzzle, right? Why do I want to connect with someone that knows everything that I know? It's useless, because I already have that information. And so it took many networking events to being on the phone for an hour, to going to a meeting for an hour, to then leave and be like, we haven't talked about absolutely anything, right? And so now I'm strategic with, okay, who do I give access to? Who I don't. And I don't want to dismiss people, because people have this misinterpretation too. Oh, this person have this following, or they're this person, I need to network with them. And that's not true either. The person with the smallest following may be the person that you need the most. And so I don't base it on following and social media and all this other crazy stuff. I zone in on, first of all, discernment, asking God, who do I need to connect with? I was at a red carpet event last weekend, and I was in a room with all different type of celebrities, and most people be like, oh, I want to take a picture. That was in my mindset. I said, okay, God, you got me in a room with people, among people, of things that I want to do, because it was a movie premiere, and I have script, and my ultimate goal is to be in the movies. I want to write movies. I love writing, is my passion. And I said, you have me in this room. What am I here for? So my thing wasn't, oh, I got to go meet these people. I didn't try to meet anyone. What am I here for? Because I understand that God puts you in a room of places with people before he opens the door to allow you to see, because there's lessons to be learned before you enter the room. And so my thing is always, when I walk into the room, I'm not necessarily trying to meet people. I'm always trying to understand what is the lesson. What am I supposed to be learning and seeing for the reason that I'm even in the room in the first place?
What you just described, I did the same thing at that networking event January 7th. Do you know who Eric Thomas is?
Yeah.
You know
E.T.
who Jeremy Anderson is?
No.
Do you know who Inky Johnson is?
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to already tell you. I'm a person, and I tell people this all the time. I can hear a song and never know who the artist is. I only know E.T. because I had a friend that kept telling me about him years ago. I'm not a person that I could listen to a tape. I'm not invested in the person as much as I'm invested in what you're giving, right?
Mm.
Because the person, I don't know you as an individual. I just know what's coming out your mouth. I know your product. I know your talent, but I don't know you. So I don't get invested in people, but I will read your book and never even look up the author. Because who you are doesn't matter to me as long as I'm getting the information from the book. And I always want to have that mentality. And I love to not know who people are, because I feel like when I meet people and I don't know what they do or know who they are, the connection is more genuine, because this is what we do as people. The janitor wrote the book. Oh, the janitor wrote the book. I'm not going to read that. Instead of saying, I don't know what's in this book. So I'm never caught up in the person. I'm only caught up in the information that you're giving. So when people say this, I have no idea who these people are. And no disrespect, I don't care who they are.
Mm-hmm.
What information are you giving?
That's
your question.
That's a key note. Okay. Yes. I'm glad you went there, because that is really important. When I had met ET, I didn't know what to call him, like Dr. Eric Thomas, just ET. I shook his hand, he hugged me. I said, Dr. Eric Thomas. He was like, man, just ET, bro. Just ET, bro. So everybody's asking him for a picture. But I'm looking at the scenery, I'm looking at the environment, the conference, how everything was set up. I'm just looking. And I really got thinking, the presentation that the speakers was doing, they had pictures of celebrities. Towards the end, I'm like, oh, I forgot to ask, but I wasn't really focused on getting a picture with a celebrity. I was in the room just to experience something new. A lot of people get it, like you said, is misconstrued when you go to these networking events, because it's like, okay, what's in it for me? No, absolutely not. What I've learned, what other entrepreneurs understand, like the journey of solving problems, they ask, like, how can I serve you? How can I serve? Like, instead of saying, how can you serve me? Like, what do you need help with? What do you need help with? And then get the, what I'm saying, open that dialect to say, oh, I'm struggling in this area. I need help here. Can you do this? Yeah, I can do that. Why no so and so? But it's really articulating the questions up front to say, hey, I'm here to serve, but this is how I can serve. Because everybody want to serve, but you can't do everything.
Right.
Proper communication. So I know you have a meeting to go to.
You're
and the last segment is called Best for Last. I ask 4 questions and you answer with a quick explanation. So the first question is, how do you keep your composure?
How do I keep my composure?
Yes.
And like what? Give me like in a setting, in speaking, in what? Relationships?
In life in general. Like when you're feeling yourself getting overwhelmed, how do you keep your composure?
God, I think practice makes perfect behind closed doors. This is what we do. We a mess behind closed doors, and then in public we act like we have it all together. But this is my philosophy in life. I walk it how I talk it. What you see with me is really what you get. And I believe in being the person I am behind closed doors. So I can't wait till something happen in public and then get before God. But when I'm always before God behind closed doors, when I'm in public, it's easy to compose myself because this is what I do anyways.
No, what is saying, you have to work on your character behind scenes as you get in front of people. That's what they hit on. What do you have any regrets?
I would say no. And the reason why I say I don't have any regrets is because I wouldn't be who I am today. You know, we can all look back and say, the only way I think I would have a regret is if I didn't learn anything. And I always tell people this, it's not wasted time, or it's not a wasted thing, or don't feel bad about it if you learn from it. Now, if you don't learn from something, you should regret it, right? But everything I went through, I've learned from it and made me better. So I wouldn't be who I am today if I had a different life, a different journey. It was my journey, and I dealt with it the best way I knew how. And so I can only say, hey, I'm a better person from it.
Because you accepted the calling. Oh my. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for breathing. Just the fact from 2020, seeing so many people pass away, and I have my entire life, losing so many different family members and just people I know. I'm just thankful for the little things we take for granted. That's just waking up for the day. Everybody doesn't wake up, and it seems so cliche that people say it, but I'm serious. I'm thankful for life.
I'm becoming more thankful for life as well. Then last question: what does failure is knowledge mean to you?
Failure is knowledge. I love the concept. I was even looking at it at the email last night. I think failure is knowledge means that if just what I said, when you fail, you learn something. So in every time you fail, you gain knowledge. It's only a problem is when you fail and you don't learn from it.
Mm, mm. Oh my goodness! How can people find you? How can they work with you? How can they buy your products? How can they connect with you?
My books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anything online, Target, Walmart, Saniyyah Mayo, everything. SaniyyahMayo.com, Saniyyah Mayo, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even TikToks.
Sure. Okay, there we go. There you go. These are 2 of 3 books that she has wrote. I don't have the third one, but I do have 2 of them. I'm reading this one right now, Transition of a Butterfly, talking about transition of a girl to a woman. Listen, if y'all got value from this, hopefully y'all did as much value as I got from it. Please connect with Dr.
Saniyyah, think me.
Saniyyah. Okay, Saniyyah. Dr. Saniyyah Mayo. Thank y'all.